So I started talking about dancing with the dakinis. I like to go out to the lake. I do this a lot in the summertime, and I don't know. It's this whole thing called water monkeys, which is on my website, or it's on there somewhere. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'll put I'll make sure you find water monkeys. It's something I learned from Will Johnson. Will Johnson's been my guru for gazing and other things, but water monkeys and Rumi, everything gazing, everything water monkeys. I've read he's got about 12 books. I've read about 8 of them and really worked on it. He's like, he's a guru of Buddhist meditation. And he's very critical of how most Western Buddhists meditate, or even not just Westerners. He doesn't think the Tibetans really understand how neurotic and frozen and how divorced from their bodies the Westerners are. When Trungpa Rinpoche understood this and laid out a plan, which nobody's following hardly, his plan was that you have to dedicate yourself. I'll explain it a little bit the way Lucy Halverson, my Akido teacher, and a great Akido teacher in San Francisco, she also studied Zen. And in her Zen school, everybody who's in that Zen school has to study 2 traditional arts, one of them a martial art and one of them more artistically. In other words, you're going to study Zen in her school, and this is what Trungpa Rinpoche is saying, exactly what he's saying. He said, if you want to study meditation in my school, you have to do something that in the day he called Shambhala arts. Now we've had that name ripped out of our bosom, and somebody else wanted to steal it and did. So now we go by contemplative arts, which works okay until you pick up a samurai sword. Say how you contemplative you feeling when I chop off your head, but that's contemplative arts is it's okay, but Shambhala arts was much better. Shambhala arts. I don't know. I call it Nalanda arts. I think that's a better name. But I'm not going to begrudge contemplative arts until we get to Kendo, and then I'm thinking it doesn't quite do it somehow. It doesn't cover the whole, it covers 90% of it, but it doesn't quite get the whole thing. Yes, Kendo is contemplative, but it's much more. So if you want to study what Trungpa Rinpoche was teaching, you got to study something. But you better have a traditional Japanese teacher when you study that something. You can't just go off and study and be your own teacher and get what you're supposed to get. Or you can study Alexander technique along with that art, and it'll get you there. Alexander technique will get you out of this frozen body, split body and mind. It'll get Alexander technique is really should be called something mindfulness. It should be called or just mindfulness training. It's how to be mindful. Unfortunately, the Japanese and the Tibetan teachers, they don't really understand. They have to really teach the Westerners like they're second graders when it comes to how about we practice mindfulness. Alexander teaches you how to do it, but people don't understand how critical it is to put all that together. They just, all the Alexander people got it, you don't have to explain it to them. They know how to do it. They're going crazy with it, but they don't really meditate, No, I never met one. I think there is one because I heard about a Zen guy that got enlightened doing Alexander technique and Zen practice. There's 5, in the world, 10 maybe, that really are serious about putting this together. But every student of Trungpa Rinpoche should be very serious about, maybe he's not going to say it's Alexander, although for 98% of you it'd be the smartest and easiest thing to do. Just combine your Zen Archery with Alexander technique and you'll be 100 times down the road. That's what my website's kind of, it's all about Alexander technique, but then it kind of goes on and does Maha'ati and does a lot of Will Johnson in there, bring the body. Here's what Will Johnson's saying. He's saying, you Westerners practicing meditation might as well be sucking your thumbs. You're not getting anywhere. You're not progressing. You're not making any progress whatsoever. You're a little quiet, or you're discovering a little bit of quietude while you're sitting. When you get up, no change, no difference. Nobody can tell you the difference. Maybe there's a little quietude, but if you do it, if you go back and do meditation, then you're going to have a little peace that's going to go over, but it's going to go away. Compared to what you're supposed to be doing, the Lopa says, do not become a block of wood. And you people all become blocks of wood. You started out as blocks of wood, and you end up as blocks of wood. And there was never any chance of anything else happening. So Will Johnson's very critical of this, and he tries to get people to breathe with their body more. He reads all what the Buddha said about breathing, and it's more than you really are planning on doing, I'm afraid. It's extra. But look at my website, read Will Johnson's books, study Alexander technique. Just look at my website, man, and study Alexander technique. And read a Will Johnson book or two. That's it.